What's up, my friends? U.S. Army veteran Christopher Chaos, and you're probably here at this video because you want to know how do I join the United States Army. Maybe you just are curious as to what I say. Maybe you don't really want to join the Army. Maybe you've been in the Army, you're in the Army, and you're just kind of curious. But nonetheless, that's what I kind of want to explain in this video is how the process works for joining the Army. And I have done this video several years in the past, but I kind of want to do like a 2021 kind of edition, maybe even a 2022 edition type of thing, just to have it show up a little bit newer in search results for those of you that are interested in trying to search for that type of content to find out how does it work for joining the United States Army. So let's get down to it, and let's start off with some of the basic requirements to even get you kind of going, to even find out if you even qualify for trying to join the United States Army. The first qualification comes down to how old you are, right? There is an age range of 17 to 35. If you're within that window, you're eligible in the age requirements for joining the United States Army. Now, with the 17 thing, you do have to get parents' consent to be able to do the medical stuff and everything else like that, and then you basically need to turn 18 by the time you graduate your initial training, but you can essentially join as early as the age of 17. But if you don't want to have to wait for your parents' consent, then you just wait till you're 18 and not even have to have a parent sign off on you joining. Then there is the cutoff of 35 years old. If you're older than 35, there is potentially sometimes a waiver process you could apply for. That just comes down to needs of the Army, sometimes your MOS, sometimes certain other factors in there to where you can try to say, hey, I know I'm 36 or I'm 37, whatever, but I want to come in the Army, and maybe there might be a potential for a waiver to still get you in. You just have to usually talk to a recruiter to find out about your options. So there is that potential for a waiver if you are over the age limit, but under the age limit, there's no like special waiver to like join at 16 or 15 or anything like that. So 17 is gonna be at least the minimum. Then as far as your education, you're gonna need a high school diploma or a GED, but there is still waivers too for that as well. I don't recommend trying to bank on that and thinking that, oh, I can drop out of high school and just get a waiver for my high school education. Those waivers for waiving that you don't have a high school, diploma, you don't have a GED, you don't have any of that stuff. There are waivers for that, but they're really limited. So that's going to kind of depend. I would not count on that type of situation. I would try your best, finish high school, get your GED, and have those requirements met. And if you're in some kind of situation where you just weren't able to finish high school, weren't able to get that GED, maybe talk to a recruiter and you can see if that waiver is available, but don't bank on that and be like, oh, I'm going to drop out of high school and go join the Army. No, try to finish up high school. Then there's also the requirement that you must be either a US citizen or you have to be a green card holder. Also kind of along with that is you do have to be a legal US resident. So if you are someone that wants to join from a foreign country, you're gonna need to A, get your green card and move to the United States. The US Army is not gonna help you get that green card. The military is not gonna help you get that green card. You're gonna have to do that part on your own. They're not gonna help you move to the United States. You're gonna need to move to the United States. They're not just going to go and basically send for you to come across to the United States from another country so that you can join. You're gonna need to be a legal resident living in the United States with at least a green card. For whatever weird reason, I had this one person I saw recently comment on an older video talking about that was full of crap, whatever. No, you can confirm that if you really want with a recruiter, but no, you need to be a legal resident, you need to have at least a green card. Even that person was talking about how if you join the Army, you're gonna get US citizenship. No, I mean, I've known individuals that have joined the Army that were not US citizens, and the process was easier for them to become a US citizen, but they still had to go through the same process. Just, it may have gone a little bit faster than somebody else that wasn't in the military, but it's not like an automatic thing. You're still gonna have to do the same process. Also kind of along with the foreigner type of thing, if you are someone from another country, you need to still also be able to read, speak, and write English fluently. In addition to all that, you also need to meet the mental, the moral, the physical standards to be eligible for the United States military. There is a process of that we will talk about a little bit later on though. So those are some of the basic requirements. There are also things that can potentially disqualify you from being able to join the Army. And rather than listing them here in this video, I've already done a video that talks about things that could potentially disqualify you from being able to join the Army. I'll have a card that pops up so that maybe after you're done watching this video, you can go check out that video to see what things could potentially disqualify you. But for here, I want to talk about things that make you eligible, hopefully, to be able to join and what the process is a little bit like. So you meet those requirements, you're within the age range, you live in the United States, you're a US citizen, a green card holder, whatever the case is. What's the next step? Well, then you'd want to reach out to your local Army recruiter. You'd want to set something up with that local Army recruiter to talk to that individual, tell them about what your goals are, what jobs you're interested in, all the kind of things that maybe questions you have about the United States Army to kind of, start to get the ball rolling. And they're going to have some things for you, some things you need to fill out, obviously, to kind of start the process of that. But that would be the next step, is to reach out to one of your local Army recruiters to talk to them about joining the Army. One of the main things they're going to want you to do is to take the test to make sure you qualify for service in the military. They're most likely sometimes going to have you do what's called the Pcat, and that's kind of like an abbreviated version of the test, which the full-on version is the ASVAB, right? You may have heard that term before, but sometimes at the recruiter's office, they may have you take the Pcat, and if you do well enough on the Pcat, then sometimes you don't have to take the full-on ASVAB, but if you do poorly on the Pcat, you might have to do the full-on ASVAB. The ASVAB is a longer test. It's probably a couple hours long, where the Pcat may only be 30 minutes to an hour or whatever kind of a thing, but it's a shorter version, but it's a good little kind of quick test to kind of get a good idea as to where you stand. And if you do really good on the Pcat, then you'll probably do really well on the ASVAB, so they don't even bother with ASVAB, and they're able to still kind of equate your scores to find out what MOS you might qualify for. Some individuals will take like the Pcat or the ASVAB at the recruiter station. Some may even take it already in high school, and if you've already done that, then they can pull up your scores if they're within the time frame that they want them to be within, or some individuals may later take the ASVAB, and I'll talk about that as well. But the ASVAB and even the Pcat is to test your education knowledge, to make sure that you are educated enough to be able to join the Army, but also to kind of narrow things down, to see, based on your scores and all the different topics, what MOSs would best suit you for your education level. If you fail the ASVAB, maybe fail the Pcat, then you can retake that, especially like the ASVAB. If you take the ASVAB, you fail to qualify for the United States military, fail to qualify for the MOS you're trying to qualify for, you can potentially retake that ASVAB. You usually have to wait 30 days, and then you can try to retake the test. After that portion is done, then the recruiter has like some paperwork you have to fill out. They have some pre-MEPS screening that you're gonna have to go through, because the next process after this is to go to MEPS. But the recruiter is gonna do a little bit of pre-screening to make sure some basic qualification things that they can easily do on their end, they can screen for before you get to MEPS, and maybe determine that you're not qualified because maybe you're overweight, or maybe certain other factors in like your criminal history or something like that may disqualify you. So they're gonna do that pre-screening thing, and if you pass that pre-screening, then you'll be able to move on towards a MEPS date. MEPS stands for Military Entrance Processing Station, and it's basically like a screening location. They have multiple locations throughout the United States, so based on whatever one's closest to you is where you're gonna go to. As an example, in California, there's actually 4 locations for MEPS. It's mostly along the coastline. For me, when I joined the Army, I actually went to the Los Angeles MEPS in California, and that's the one I went to, but it's gonna really vary based on your location and what the nearest MEPS is to you. So that recruiter is going to set up some kind of appointment, some kind of day for you to go to MEPS. And if there's other individuals in your area that is also trying to join the military, trying to join the Army in this case, then you might go with them as well to MEPS altogether. So the day before the date that you're supposed to go to MEPS to do all the screening process, so how it's going to commonly work is your recruiter is going to pick you up, maybe even other individuals that are going at the same day as you, take you down to that location, put you in a hotel, and you'll be ready to go. That way, bright and early the next morning, you can start the MEPS processing. I've even heard from individuals, even though if you live in that area, like let's say for example Los Angeles, right, they still put you in a hotel just to have you right there because it's right next to the MEPS location, and they can easily just get you into MEPS rather than having to rely on you waking up on time from your home where you're living at and getting to MEPS on time. So they can just have everybody already there at that hotel, gathered up and together to be able to go over to the MEPS station. So even if you live in the local area, I've seen it commonly that they will still put you in the hotel the day prior to your MEPS date. So then the next morning, bright and early, you have to be over at the MEPS location. This is typically maybe a 1-day process. I've also heard stories of it being a 2-day process, but typically 1 day is pretty average, and sometimes just depending on how things go, it could end up being a 2-day process. But expect it to be very lengthy. The term they even use, even on the Army's website, is hurry up and wait, because that's what the process is like of MEPS. You're just going through multiple stations, hurrying up and waiting for your name to be called, for you to do that station and do things you have to do, and then move on to the next one and maybe wait your turn. Just continuing doing this process through a lengthy process of the day. There are several things you do. I mean, a lot of medical stuff in there. You're gonna be doing a drug screening to make sure you can pass the drug test. And it's just a very lengthy process of being able to check to make sure that you are fit, you are healthy enough and everything else to be able to go into the United States military, because not just Army individuals go to MEPS, everybody goes to MEPS, whether you're joining the Marines, the Navy, whatever, right? Everybody's gonna go there. So you're gonna see multiple individuals there trying to join different branches of service, as it still has the same kind of standards all across the board as far as MEPS goes, as far as making sure that you are physically fit to be able to join the military in general. So when that whole lengthy process is done at MEPS, then finally you get to the point where you sit one-on-one with a counselor. That counselor is going to be able to have all your information in front of them, from all of the screening stuff you did there at MEPS, plus your ASVAB scores, to see what jobs you qualify for, so they can try to talk to you about what your options are for joining the United States Army. So they're gonna go through it with you. They're gonna say, hey, these are the MOSs that are available to you based on your physical requirements that you met and everything here, your ASVAB scores, but also availability. Because even though you might be healthy and you might have had great ASVAB scores to get the MOS that you want, if that MOS is not available, then you simply can't get it, even though you do qualify for it, especially like if that's an MOS that is overstrengthed on individuals, maybe lower enlisted soldiers, and they're not currently taking new soldiers into that MOS, then it may not be available to you, even though you qualify for it. So keep that in mind. Just because you have amazing ASVAB scores does not guarantee you're gonna get the MOS you want. If it's not available because it's overstrength, you can't get that MOS. So now, an MOS you probably don't have to worry about that with is probably like 11 Bravos. They pretty much always need 11 Bravos, but certain other MOSs that maybe are more technical, maybe ones that people really like and they don't usually leave that MOS very easily, might be a little bit harder to get sometimes. So from those available options, if there is an MOS you're interested in, right? They show you these options of what MOSs you qualify for that are available, and you're like, yes, I want to be that MOS right there. So they're going to start kind of doing up your Army contract, and this is also going to determine the availability of when you will actually ship off to basic training, or even OSUT if you're doing an infantry type of MOS, or an MOS that does OSUT rather than basic training. That could be something within 30 days. If it is usually in that time frame with 30 days or less, then usually they have like a quick ship bonus, so you might get a little extra cash for shipping off early, but sometimes they're also a little bit farther out, several months out kind of a thing, and maybe you have multiple options to choose from. Maybe they only have one available option for you to choose, and if you want this MOS, you gotta take this specific date. But you're gonna kind of hash that out right there to determine when you're gonna leave, when you're gonna ship off for basic training to start your Army career. After you agree on a job that you want to do, an MOS that you want to do, you sign that contract, then you'll move over to another room where other individuals that kind of did the same process, have finished it and have, signed their contract and chosen their MOS, they will go to swear in. During this time, you're in a room, you have probably some officer, maybe a lieutenant, maybe a captain, whatever the case is. You have an officer that's usually there that is reading off the oath to you, that you have to repeat back with your raising your right hand and repeat back the oath. And this is available for family members to attend to watch you take that oath if you wish to do that. So you could potentially invite like your spouse, maybe your mom, maybe your dad, whatever the case might be, to watch you go and do the oath and enlist into the United States Army. They can take photos, they can sit there quietly off to the side and watch you do the oath and all that kind of cool stuff and fun things to post on Instagram or on Facebook to show their loved one maybe joining the Army, or you can post whatever. But this is something you can potentially usually invite family members to when you go to do the oath. After you've done the oath, that's basically it. That's the end of the MEPS processing system, and now you're just kind of waiting around to ship off. But you could have potential for doing things in between, especially if you do like the Future Soldier program, which used to be called the Delayed Entry program. During this time, you might do something with a recruiter if you do that program, doing like PT with them, maybe learning some things like drill and ceremonies and rank structure and all sorts of things to kind of help prepare you for the basic training or OSUT you're going to go to, or just preparing you in general for the Army. And a lot of times if you complete these tasks, then you're able to maybe get a little bit of rank when you ship off. So sometimes it can be beneficial for that, for gaining a little bit extra rank. You don't have to come in as an E1. You can start off making a little bit extra pay, but also learn a little bit before you join. The recruiter should give you some kind of packing list as far as what you're supposed to pack. Sometimes they will pull it from the website, for that official basic training website, to say that, hey, this is what you're supposed to take with you when you go to basic training at this location. So you should get something along those lines that you can prepare and make sure you have those items and pack it to take it with you to basic training. But then when it becomes time for you to ship off, probably the day prior, the recruiter is again going to pick you up and probably take you to the hotel again over at MEPS, because you do still go through MEPS to ship off. So again, you're gonna spend the night in the hotel, and probably bright and early in the next morning, you're gonna go back over to MEPS to receive a packet, receive some instructions as far as the travel accommodations to get you to your location of where you need to go to. So you have that packet, you're probably with a bunch of other individuals that are going to the same basic training or OSUT location that you're going off to. If it's somewhere nearby, they may put you on a bus and you may ride a bus all the way there. If it's further out, then they're gonna probably bus you over to the airport and you're gonna fly to that nearby location. If that is the case where you're flying, well then you're gonna arrive at an airport nearby. They'll probably have some instructions for where to go usually for when you're first arriving. They maybe have a specific gate, they have a specific area at the airport to go to, report to that area, and then they're gonna stick you on a bus and take you over to the reception area at that basic training to start processing into basic training to get the whole process going. If you're riding the bus, well then the bus may take you just directly to reception and kind of get the process going, and now the fun journey begins. You start your basic training pretty soon. We start off with a reception for a week, but start off with that or doing OSUT or whatever, and your journey into the Army begins from there on. I do have videos on my channel as far as what happens next, right? What happens at basic training, maybe, specific AIT locations, maybe what it's like in the Army. So make sure you are subscribed, notifications turned on so you can join the notification platoon and you can make sure to catch all that type of content. Make sure you check out links down in the description box down below for social media, for my website, Discord, all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching. Hit that thumbs up. I'm Christopher Chaos. I'll see you next time. See ya.